Having another conversation with you today. We're talking about church stuff today, right?
Yeah. Church trauma, church hurt.
Spiritual abuse,
hmm
religious trauma. We're going to talk about a little bit of that today. So, some of my students shout out to all of those who are part of the Call to Ministry program. Some of my students submitted some questions, and I'm excited to be going through those questions with you all on today.
hmm Yeah, I think a lot of people live through it, but few people talk about it.
I got a lot to talk about.
Yeah. So today, I think we should title this that it's not just a comfort conversation, but healthy confrontation.
Healthy confrontation. I'm good at confrontation.
Okay. So, Prophet Torace, take us back to the moment you realized what you were experiencing wasn't just a bad season, but it was spiritual trauma. And what was the moment that shifted your perspective to be able to give language to other people who have experienced the same thing behind you?
Uh when did I let's break that up.
Okay.
When did I realize it was spiritual trauma?
hmm
I don't think I realized that it was spiritual trauma until I got in therapy.
Mm.
Um I think therapy is what really kind of opened my eyes to the impact that it had on my life,
hmm
on my relationship, on the way that I viewed myself. It was really sitting down and opening up with someone and I thought I was going to therapy because I was angry and I needed to forgive.
Yeah.
But when I sat down and started talking with a therapist, he really kind of just like laid it out for me. And he was like, you have experienced severe trauma in your emotions. And I had only thought of trauma being, related to like physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse
Yeah.
in domestic environments, or,
hmm
or the trauma from being in war. You ever,
hmm
where I'm from, we would hear about people being shell shocked,
Right.
which was just a pop culture way of saying PTSD.
hmm
But when he really broke that thing down for me and pointed to the symptoms that I was describing and my reaction to certain environments, it really blew me away that I was a, a survivor of severe trauma
hmm
from the church.
Wow. So I think I hear more people say hard season,
hmm
a rough season.
hmm
No one says spiritual trauma. So if I'm a person who I keep classifying these things as a hard season, you experiencing this, what would you say, Alrecus? That's not a hard season. That's
Um,
trauma. What are symptoms?
yeah, people often will utilize language like, God is testing me, God is trying me,
hmm
God is proving me in the fire. Um, but we don't know how to distinguish um, spiritual language and spooky stuff from real deal, like spiritual abuse.
hmm
Um, God does put us in uncomfortable seasons to train us and prep us and make us ready for things. Trials come to make us strong, is what the scripture says.
Yeah.
But God does not use abuse.
Yeah.
So we have to really, I think at this point, we have to start defining like, what is spiritual abuse?
hmm
What is spiritual abuse? Spiritual abuse looks like manipulation.
hmm
You are guilt tripped or intimidated into doing things that you really don't want to do, that don't have any benefit for you. It benefits the leader or the organization. Spiritual abuse looks like domination, where you are not able to make controlled decisions for yourself. You're controlled. You're not able to make decisions for yourself about where you live, who you date, uh,
hmm
what you eat. I've seen the doctors you go
hmm
to. When a leader wants to exert complete control over your life and you can't even make decisions about, oh, I want to purchase a new car. Like, there are crazy things going on out here.
hmm
When you have to talk to your leader about things that normal adults don't have to talk to their leaders about, it could be a sign that you are experiencing some spiritual abuse. Another thing that is really common in spiritually abusive environment is the positioning themselves in your life as a parent or a spiritual parent, but taking away your autonomy.
Yeah.
Like everything in your life revolves around the church. You can't go on vacation because the church needs you. You can't make a decision for your family because how it's going to impact the church. When you start moving into those types of conversations, now you're slipping from the role of a good shepherd, which is to guide, to oversee in a way that's not controlling, but to provide discipleship and spiritual growth. When you slip from that into, I can't make a decision unless I run it by my leader, then you stepped into something that is outside of the scriptural decision or this depiction of spiritual leadership.
Wow. So coming from out of that, and what are some of the signs of when someone has experienced PTSD in a church environment? Like, we know what that looks like with coming from the army and coming from war. What does it look like when it's coming from the house of God?
Just because it comes from the house of God, doesn't mean that it'll show up differently than in other environments.
Yeah.
You see a real parallel between domestic abuse, whether it be from in relationships, or whether it be sexual. The way we respond to abuse and trauma is the same.
Yeah.
And generally it's the same. It just shows up in different ways. For me, I can talk about my experience. I would have really severe points of panic and anxiety when I got into leadership environments. When I got around new leaders that I didn't know, I found myself experiencing anxiety. I found myself afraid to disappoint the leader.
Right.
I found myself having a hard time resting and sleeping if I thought that my leader was upset with me or that I had disappointed them. I found myself unable to make decisions for myself for a season of life.
Yeah.
And you're talking about a man who's always been a strong-willed, determined person, struggling to make basic decisions for my life because I didn't have the confidence that I needed. You're talking about hyperventilating. I found myself in spaces where it was a simple disagreement with a leader, but I found myself hyperventilating, like the world was coming to an end, emotionally experiencing a roller coaster of wondering, if this was the thing that was going to make them throw me away forever. Those are just a few of examples. Inability to maintain healthy relationship. I almost lost my wife. Me and my wife were dating. I'll tell this story. Me and my wife were dating in the midst of a church. I was the executive pastor of the church, and the church had gone through a split. The pastor at the time decided that he wanted to leave the organization that we were a part of. And so I was dating my wife, Pastor Nini, at the time, and that church split was bloody. It was public. It was in the blogs. People were saying that I was going to take over the church because I made it clear that I was going to stay with the organization and not go with the leaders. I did not agree with what was going on, but I'm a loyalist, so I stayed with the organization. And so I was under stress of being called a traitor, being called a snake. Emotionally, I was just spent. And my wife at the time, my girlfriend at the time, became a casualty of that. I literally had to spend a year in therapy and deliverance before the Lord highlighted, you about to miss your blessing. I remember that you about to lose your job. You about to miss your wife is what the Lord showed me after I began to heal. So when you are in abusive environment, it makes it difficult for you to have relationships with anybody. You know, you become emotionally drained. You become distant, disconnected. You don't know how you feel. So when someone else is asking you for anything emotionally, they become the one thing that you can cut off. And
Yeah.
at the time, I felt like I couldn't be what my wife needed me to be. My girlfriend needed me to be. So she became a casualty of that. So that's just some of the signs of you or a person dealing with like spiritual abuse and religious trauma.
Yeah. I think another question too I would have is, through your experience, the question becomes, especially for people that have also experienced that out there or is experiencing, where is God in all of this?
Whew. I remember being a part of this church and knowing that I was being mistreated,
Yeah.
knowing that I was being mishandled. And I remember being a part of this church and laying on the altar, crying out to God, begging him to release me from my assignment, begging him to let me go, begging him to give me clarity. And in that moment, I felt like God sided with my abusers. Um, I felt like God sided with the people who were hurting me because he told me to stay. And I didn't understand it. I was wounded. I knew he didn't want me to be hurt. But what I didn't know is that he was utilizing my experience to make sure I never became what was leading me.
Yeah.
He made sure that I would never build a culture in the church I have here or the church I'm building in Atlanta. He made sure through that season, even though I felt like it was an abuse, God was using it for my development.
Yeah.
And so as I've been building, I've planted 2 churches now. I'm very sensitive to make sure that I don't repeat or recreate what I experienced, what I was hurt by, because God was teaching me in that season. Like God was pruning me and developing me and making me into a leader. He was making me into a vessel of honor, and it was painful. Man, it was painful, but it was necessary. So where God was in that, he saw them. He protected me from a lot still, but he decided to use what the enemy meant for evil. I find myself in like Joseph's shoes. Like, where was God in the pit? God didn't want Joseph in the pit, but he knew that his purpose protected him in the pit.
Absolutely.
That's what I experienced. I was in hard seasons. I was being mistreated, but God was with me in that season, helping me through it to make sure that I became what he needed me to become. And it wasn't easy.
Yeah. And I also say, like, I feel like that speaks a lot to those that are around you and to all of my spiritual brothers and sons that you have. Some of the things that I always hear you tell us, me, and you've definitely told me plenty of times, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have it all together. You tell us these affirmations, and hearing you talk about this lets me know why.
Oh yeah.
Not that you are a person who lets us do what we want to do, because no, you come with expectations of us, and the best for us. But at the same time, I serve better when I know I don't have to show up as my best self all the time or
Absolutely.
mask it
Absolutely.
with perfectionism and that. But hearing you say that, it lets me know why, because you've lived through it, and you went through it, and God took you through that, and so now you know how to lead those that God has called you to lead.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm very sensitive to perfectionism. I can dial into it. I can spot it from a mile away because I lived with it. I remember the way God broke perfectionism off of me. Our church was in a really this was a few years ago. I was a part of a church and we were in a really hard season. And I was just trying to troubleshoot everything. I was trying to fix everything. And I remember being in prayer and asking the Lord, in prayer, I was asking the Lord, I said, Lord, what am I supposed to do with this? And I was like, give me strategy, give me insight, give me wisdom. And the Lord said this to me: dear perfectionist, let it be a mess. And I said, what? Let it be a mess? Like, you mean let things look bad? Like, that's going to fall back on me. And he asked me this question: what matters more, your name or my glory? And when I started getting delivered from that, I had to start letting certain things go. I had to stop worrying about certain things. I had to stop trying to show, because that's what perfectionism does. Perfectionism is really the enemy's tool of exhaustion, because it makes you feel like you have to do everything and be everything for things to be good, when the truth is he's sovereign. And so he taught me through that season to sit in his sovereignty, even when it was uncomfortable. Sometimes the sovereignty of God is uncomfortable. So in that season, he taught me to sit in his sovereignty, letting things go, letting go of control, letting go of a perfect picture, and it freed me up. And that's when I started really getting breakthrough and started speaking up for myself and started advocating for myself, when I let go of the lens of perfectionism, which is why I'm so adamant and so direct and sensitive to sensitivity in those that to perfectionism in those that I lead now, because I don't want people to be exhausted how I was exhausted.
Absolutely. And just as you was talking Holy Spirit concerning that, he began to speak to me about that. Once you provoked me to go and start studying that.
Forgive me for that. You need to let that go.
That was a hard 3 weeks. But one, I started to really like, God, I don't want to do this. Like, this is how I felt I'm structured and I'm wired. And he said that this is a goal that you're trying to obtain and you'll never reach it.
That's perfectionism.
And I'm like, what? Like, I've been working at trying to get to a goal that is really impossible. It's impossible to show up as your best self all the time.
Yeah, no.
And it told me that people only loved me when I was doing good. That I could only celebrate myself when I got to that level of perfectionism. So to speak to those people out there because I heard you talk about this, and then School of Prayer, Prophet Cephas talked about this.
Yes.
When you're prophetic and you feel like you are the fixer.
True.
Can you speak to those out there who feel like, God, every time I'm put in a situation, a ministry, a group, a small group, or a circle, a family dynamic, I feel like I am the one that has to fix everything?
Yeah. One of the things that I train prophets in, especially prophets that are going to work in a community, which most, I believe every prophet should, is that you have to learn to speak the word and be a part of solutions when invited, but their response is not your responsibility. That was a hard one for me, because I would prophesy to my leader and say, the Lord said X, Y, and Z, and he would look at me like a deer in headlights and act like he didn't hear me and walk away. Like, I come to him, I'm a prophet, you've seen accuracy, and I tell you this, and you blink at me and walk away like I don't matter. And the Lord told me, whose words is it? Is it yours or is it mine?
Wow.
And I was like, well, Lord, it's your words, but he disrespected me. He said, no. He didn't disrespect you. He disrespected me, and I'm going to deal with him. You forgive him and move forward. And that's what prophetic people, especially prophetic, let me speak to you prophetic people who are in church environments where you feel disrespected, mishandled, unloved. God is with you.
Yeah.
God is going to lead you. Don't allow offense to live in you, because offense will block your sensitivity for your next steps. They're coming, but you got to live in a place of forgiveness, absolute forgiveness.
And in that forgiveness, is there a place in there where you have to forgive yourself?
Oh, absolutely.
And
I found myself. Oh,
no, I'm sorry. And I was about to say, and what are, because one thing that you taught me is you have to give a language and you got to get down to it. So walking us through the things that you have to forgive yourself of, but giving it like, what are the detailed points that you had for yourself when it came to forgiving yourself through this?
I felt like I had to forgive myself for allowing people to mishandle me. I
Wow.
felt like I made myself into a chump.
Mm.
I felt like I changed who I was. I downgraded what my norm was to make other people comfortable. And so I had to really, I had to forgive myself for letting people walk over me. I had to forgive myself for letting people mishandle me. I had to forgive myself for doing, you know, for really forgive myself for letting people mistreat me.
Wow.
And that was really hard because of childhood stuff. But that was a major thing I had to forgive myself for. I had to forgive myself for shrinking.
Yeah.
Like when you're in abusive environments, when you're in unhealthy environments, they make you shrink to fit their box. And if you don't live in their box or you don't submit to their box, you're ostracized. You're given the cold shoulder. You're given the silent treatment. Let me tell y'all about this. Don't let me forget. Silent treatment is spiritual abuse. If you don't have a leader who can have confrontation with you in a healthy way and it's negatively impacting you, you might need to find a leader who can have conversations. Because I found myself forgiving myself for waiting on responses and waiting like this how I allowed the silent treatment to mess with me. It really rocked me in a way that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah. I want to deal with two things. One, going back to when you talked about shrinking. What happens when you are perceiving this not necessarily from the leader, but for those out there that are a part of teams and they're a part of the ministry's culture to uphold the vision, and they feel like, well, I have to shrink who I am because I sense animosity. I sense like, who are they? What are you here for? What are you doing? Did you ever experience that, not necessarily from the leader perspective, but from serving on teams and being a part of the culture of a ministry? And how did you navigate that?
Oh man, when I was 26 years old, an HR manager, had leadership experience, and so I experienced people feeling like I didn't deserve to be in the role that I was in. Not knowing me from a can of paint, but feeling as if I was not prepared enough to be what the leaders had made me. And so, because of that, yeah, I experienced some real animosity. I experienced people going behind my back to the leader. I experienced them having conversations and acting like, I experienced the leader trying to replace me. And did replace me and then had to come back and apologize and put me back in position. I'll tell you this, I was the executive pastor, and then there was a season where the pastor came to me and said, I want you to develop ministry teams. This is where I fell in love with myself as an equipper. He said, I want you to develop ministry teams and I want you to develop prophetic teams, deliverance teams, prayer teams, and all of that. So I was excited. So he switched my role from executive pastor to pastor of ministries. Well, me thinking this is something honorable, I helped build in one area operationally. Now he wants me to build ministerially. So I made that switch. And not only to find out later that I was being talked about, and then a flyer was released, and it was like the executive pastors of the organization. So all of the campuses, executive pastors were released, and a flyer was put out, and my face wasn't on it.
Wow.
Now, it hadn't been announced to anybody that I had been switched to pastor of ministry, but this flyer went out, and my phone started blowing up, and people started asking, were you fired? Are you no longer in leadership? Like, what happened? And it was embarrassing because I felt like I know it was an intentional dig at me, and I could not understand why. You know, it was an intentional dig, and it caused so much confusion. And you know, they all went to this leadership retreat and didn't tell me.
Wow.
They left me out of it, and I was like, you know, if I was a bad executive pastor, so I called him. I was like, did I do my job wrong? No, you didn't mess up on anything. No, you're great. I legit wanted you to move. I said, well, I don't feel like that's what really happened when the next day after we have that conversation, a flyer is released, and now people are calling me and assuming that I've done something wrong. Y'all are on this trip and didn't communicate with me, like, and so those type of, you know, underhanded things are things that I dealt with. And I was petty and prophetic, and so I sent him, yes, I was petty and prophetic, so I sent him that flyer. And I marked him, I edited. I said, in the next 6 months, I went down the line of all the campus executive pastors. I said, in the next 6 months, all of these people will be gone. And he replied, LOL, haha, you're crazy. I said, no, I'm not. I'm a prophet. 6 months later, I was sitting in the office next to him, firing the person who he had tried to replace me with.
Mm.
And every other person that I marked on that flyer was gone.
Mm.
So he had to come back and apologize to me because he removed me, not hearing from God, trying to really it was another form of spiritual abuse. He felt like he found something better.
Mm-hmm.
And what he found was a scammer. He put a
Mm.
scammer in position.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was really hard to deal with. So yeah, I've had people intentionally wound me because they hated the role that I was in.
I love that you are, one, very open about that, because seriously, a lot of things that you're talking about, like, I didn't know, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And so you being very open and transparent, I'm trying not to get emotional about that, because I see like the version now, and the version that I see now, there is no residue of that place.
Mm-hmm.
How do you navigate with leading two churches, a university, prophetic prophets and leaders around you, and there be no residue of what you experienced in previous seasons, or that it doesn't navigate negatively?
It doesn't come out in my leadership.
It doesn't come out in your leadership.
I think that the thing that I did, I made sure that I took time to heal. So I stayed out of church for a while.
Yeah.
I took a break from church. I took a break from church leadership. I consulted.
Yeah.
But I took a break from church leadership after that. I helped church. I was a director of church planting for a while, so I helped people plant churches. But I took a serious break out. I needed it for my soul to breathe.
Yeah.
And I told God there was no way that I would plant a church until He healed me. And so I went through therapy. I went through deliverance in my dreams. I had personal deliverance sessions. I went to brunch. I found friends. I moved to Dallas, and I healed.
Yeah.
I really intentionally healed, and I remember. Sometimes people go through stuff and they forget what they went through. I remember. It's fresh on my mind. So when I handle people, I remember how I felt. And I never want anybody else to feel that way.
Yeah.
I remember being talked about behind my back. So this is why I'm very direct, when not harshly direct. I mean, I can be.
Absolutely. You said this is an honest podcast.
Wow.
No, it's done in love. But you, as you always say, you are a prophet of God. So sometimes it's not a Band-Aid. Sometimes it's a AK-47.
That's a real big jump. Band-Aid to AK-47.
I mean, but it's the same effect though.
Well, I think I'm like that because I served under passive leaders, passive aggressive leaders, and I knew how that made me feel. Like, if there's an issue, talk to me. Don't talk about me, because I'm gonna find out about it, and then you think I'm crashing out when I come knocking on your office. Like, hey, I heard that you said X, Y, and Z. Then you lie to me. Now I don't trust you.
Yeah.
Let's just have a conversation. Let's just talk. Is there a problem? I love you. I don't want there to be a problem. So let's get this. But AK-47 is insane.
I think though both are so needed. Because for me, for a person who I grew up in a very apostolic environment around older people, and so there are seasons where I do need that comforting. It's gonna be all right. I'm gonna help you. But then there are times when I need, no, this needs to go. Because what I do feel like is if you pacify it for a long time, it delays where you need to be, and it puts a hindrance on a person's growth. So I want to talk about this too in church environments, and we're still talking about trauma and hurt. How does correction and healthy confrontation come into play where a person doesn't take that and say, "Oh, I was hurt. I was abused by that." But from a perspective of a leader, I'm just really having healthy confrontation and trying to help.
It's really hard right now to have healthy confrontation in this culture because the majority of churches are passive aggressive.
Wow.
So I believe if I was to give an estimation, 60% of the people in American church have experienced some form of religious trauma or spiritual abuse.
60%.
In my estimation. I have no other source on that. I've not read that. I'm just talking about when I deal with people.
Yeah.
And so because of that, it's hard to have really healthy conversations without causing hurt. So, I took that pressure off of me.
Mm-hmm.
Like the pressure of saying that I would never hurt somebody, I took that off of me because I can't say that I won't ever hurt you. I won't ever intentionally hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't ever be too proud to apologize
Mm-hmm.
if and when I hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard,
Mm-hmm.
I recently dealt with a situation where I had to correct somebody,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm hearing now that it's being said that I was abusive or harsh,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like I wasn't abusive.
Mm-hmm.
You were caught gossiping,
Mm-hmm.
and I called you into a meeting, told you what the meeting was about,
Mm-hmm.
and corrected gossip.
Mm-hmm.
In love, didn't
Mm-hmm.
yell my voice, didn't raise my voice, didn't call them names, asked for facts, stuck with facts. I followed the Matthew 18 protocol,
Mm-hmm.
or Matthew 16 or 18. And I was still, so there is a fine line between that,
Yeah.
between leaders who are really trying to do things the right way, and then there are some, because of the foolishness that has gone on in the church, there are still some situations where no matter, because people have been so wounded and there have not been large avenues for healthy confrontation, it becomes difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes really difficult to
Mm-hmm.
have those conversations with people. Yeah.
And you give this terminology a lot, spiritual detox. And I think that it is so important that if you have experienced any of this, before you jump to serve again and before you jump into a ministry again, that you really go through this. Because I don't care how much a place is safe for you, if you come into this place with an offended heart, you're going to see everything as offense. If you come into this place and you're still unhealed, and there are people there who are genuinely wanting to connect, genuinely want to get to know you, you're going to think that they come like Satan, the Scythians week.
Yeah.
So what does spiritual detox look like for a person who has come out of a thing but are in a safe place, but because of all these things that has happened to them, they're like, I don't want to buy into this.
Yeah, it's hard for people who've never been safe to recognize safety.
Yeah.
So most times people need to focus on healing instead of helping. And that's hard.
Yes.
Because we've been taught to help in the church, to jump in, to serve. We get to do this. We've been taught to run, to do all of this stuff. And we've never been taught to take care of ourselves. And sometimes taking care of ourselves mean I don't need to serve right now. I just need to know that I'm loved. I just need to be safe. I just need to hear the word. And that's difficult, especially for high capacity people. That was really difficult. So, I don't tell people that they're wrong for sitting out of church for a season. One of the best times of my life was not being in church leadership. Not having that responsibility. I was able to focus on me. I was able to focus on healing. I was able to focus on hearing God. It wasn't about my gift. It was about me getting better. And that was one of the best things that I can do. I think it's toxic. I'm gonna say this. I think it's toxic to teach people that they are unsafe, unprotected, and unloved by God because they haven't found a local church.
Yeah.
There's this covering idea that teaches you if you don't have a community or you don't have a leader or covering, that you are in danger of being devoured by the enemy. And that's not biblical and it's not true. Actually, it's a tool of manipulation and control, and it's caused people to go from one toxic environment to another toxic environment in the name of, I want to be covered. Really, you can be in a church, in a community, under a leader, bishop, apostle, pastor, prophet, whatever. But if that community is not safe and healthy, you are not covered. You are actually being wounded in a place in the name of being covered. So I am an advocate. Wait and find a safe place. Don't rush into a new environment. Don't rush into a new space, especially when you've experienced real hurt, real trauma, real transitions in your life. Don't rush. Just wait and find a space that's going to be safe for you.
You said this in one of your teachings: safety is not comfort.
Woo.
What does that mean?
That's tough. Safety and comfort are not synonymous. And I think a lot of us get that mixed up, and we think that when we come into a new church or into a safe environment like Cultivate DFW or Cultivate ATL, that means that we're going to be comfortable. God does not send you to filthy environments for open heart surgery. He will only do surgery in sterile environments. And so sometimes the places that are the most safe for you actually feel the most uncomfortable, because God will send you to safe environments to work on your soul. Iron sharpens iron. The only way that you can be sharpened is by a little friction. People are going to rub you the wrong way. That doesn't mean it's not safe. It's just uncomfortable. And God uses uncomfortable seasons to make us into warriors. He uses uncomfortable seasons to sharpen us and develop us. He uses uncomfortable seasons to make us better. Just because it's not comfortable doesn't mean it's not safe. What do I mean by that? God will never use abuse, but he will use environments where you're stretched, where you're pushed, where you're exposed to make you better. Absolutely. He absolutely will.
Absolutely. And I would like to add, service should never feel like a 9 to 5 to people.
No.
And I think that one of the things that you always tell us, it's me especially, Al, rest. You need to rest. You need to rest.
But you don't do it.
Because I try to tell you, and I don't think that you be understanding when I say...
I'm smart. I comprehend exactly what you be saying. But I also see what you be doing.
But it does not feel like a 9 to 5 because of the safety of the environment. And my service to God, working, greeting people, whether that's in the parking lot, whether that's people coming through the door, whether that's being at the church to stack up chairs, take down chairs, because healing in a safe place produces the fruit of, I just want to serve God, and serving God because it's not with so much bondage and condemnation and church abuse. It brings liberty and it brings freedom.
Yeah.
And there's rest in that.
There is. However, you still need to rest.
Right.
Here's why.
Mm-hmm.
Even in those environments, you can find yourself happy and exciting, and taking on a lot. But life comes with transitions.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to shoulder or set a pace for yourself
Mm-hmm.
that is maybe helpful right now, and then when the transition comes, it's unhealthy,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not able to keep it, and
Mm-hmm.
then you become burned out. So
Mm-hmm.
it's true, when you get in a safe environment, you're gonna want to jump all in. You're gonna want to um, knock it out of the park every time, because you feel safe and you feel happy. But it's still important to keep a healthy balance.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it doesn't feel like work because you're happy and safe, but it is still work.
Mm-hmm.
Your body is still going to translate it as work.
Absolutely.
This is why I tell you, sit yourself down somewhere and rest.
Right. Same for you.
Now, don't get...
It's the same. People be telling you that on social media.
And people need to mind their business.
They say it to you all the time. Rest, rest, rest. So I'm just throwing that out there too. You rest as well. Pastor Nini says that you be up at 6 o'clock in the morning working.
Are you literally for seeing tell my business in front of all these people?
Okay. You listed 18 signs of an unhealthy or undeveloped church.
Uh-huh.
Which of those do you think are the most, well, really, most all of them are overlooked. But talk about a few of them that are really, really dangerous that many churches overlook. That post went everywhere.
Yeah. I think we need to... One of the key ways to identify unsafe church environments is how they handle money.
Mm.
So I wrote that post, 18 Signs of an Unhealthy Church. And one of the most important things that we need to highlight and pay attention to is financial transparency.
Mm-hmm.
What's being done with the money? Who's responsible for the money?
Mm-hmm.
Are there financial reports being released? I have this belief system in Cultivate churches. Y'all ain't gonna tell me what to do with the money, because this is not a Baptist church. Hallelujah. Come to those see. We don't vote.
he absolutely hates when we say we got to vote about something.
We don't vote. We don't vote over here. The board can vote. We have a board. The board can vote. But y'all ain't no power in the pews. We love y'all, but y'all know the Baptist churches, they'll vote the pastor out, that the congregation get mad. No, we don't have that. Them bylaws ain't written like that. Hallelujah. But I do believe in financial transparency. You donate, and we make decisions as an organization, as leadership in the organization, about what happens with the church. But it is still up to us to make decisions about what happens with the money.
Absolutely.
That doesn't mean that you don't get to see what we've decided.
Right.
I still believe in financial transparency, where you get to see what's decided, and you can ask questions about stuff, but you here at Cultivate, we don't make decisions about what's happening with the money. We cast vision, and we're integral with the money. But yeah, that's a big sign. If you want to identify if a church is abusive, if they raising millions and millions of dollars, I'm gonna say that again. If your church is raising millions and millions of dollars and you don't see high community impact, I'm not just talking about one community event a year. No, if you don't see high community impact, if you don't see families in the church being developed and taken care of, if you don't see widows and orphans being looked after, if you don't see real community ministry, and the pastor drenched in Gucci every week, the pastor drenched in Louis Vuitton every week. I mean, from head to toe. I ain't talking about a little shirt. I like designer here and there, but the church ain't never bought me nothing designer.
Right.
That ain't the church's responsibility. I work hard. That's why I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I work hard to make sure that I can get what I want to get.
Right.
And that we're stable. But it is not something that that looks good for the pastor. Ain't got no other endeavors. Everybody know I got other businesses.
Right.
Everybody knows, that I do stuff outside of the church that generates good income.
Right.
But I do not. It doesn't look good. The pastor don't have any other endeavors. I mean,
right.
you build $1 million house,
Right.
and you don't have, you ain't doing nothing but church.
Right.
Is the church paying? People have a right to ask that question.
Right. And I think that's really a plug-in for real. It's because if you're giving, and a random stranger says, what are you giving to? You can't leave Cultivate and not know what you just gave to, and not see the product of what you just gave to.
Shameless plug right here.
Yeah.
We are looking to purchase a 40-foot diesel school bus because we need space for our kids ministry. These families are joining our church every week, and none of the families that are joining our church have one child. They all have 2, 3, 4, 5. I love it. I love that we have kids, but we want to make space for them. We want to accommodate them. And so if you feel led, I want you to partner with what's happening at Cultivate by going to thecultivatedfw.com and giving to we are a 501c3 compliant nonprofit organization. So everything that you give is tax deductible. You can write it off at the end of the year. But we need a 40-foot school bus, and I'm believing that one person can buy that bus for us. Yeah. So if that's you, you're that one person, hit us up, DM me, DM the church, email us. We want to create space, because we also need space for toddlers. Yeah. Because I got to get my daughter out of that main sanctuary while I'm preaching.
Ryan's a worshiper.
Ryan is.
Thing I love about Ryan is you would say, make some noise. She won't say a word.
But as soon as it gets quiet,
as soon as you start preaching,
mother wants to raise her voice. That's
when she lift up her sound.
I mean, I'm preaching and she trying to out-preach me.
Absolutely.
What kind of takeover spirit is this? It comes from her mama's side of the family. I promise you.
Wow.
I have nothing to do with that.
But no, we would definitely appreciate that. We are at maximum capacity with Cultivate Kids every single Sunday.
And I feel bad.
Yeah.
I feel bad because we don't have more space in this building yet. We're still a 1.5-year old church here in the Dallas area. It's good trouble, but it's trouble nonetheless, and we need help. We're in trouble. We need help. Yeah. Help us buy. This is my vision. I want us to buy a 40-foot long school bus, gut it out, renovate it, and turn it into a mobile learning center for kids, where they'll have stools, they'll have a learning environment. It'll be air conditioned in the summer. Heated in the winter. It's going to be a safe space, and it'll be something that our kids can go in every week, and that way they can go outside, they can go around to the bathroom. It's the perfect idea. I want y'all to help us do that.
Absolutely.
Back to the podcast.
No, we were talking about financial integrity. That's one of the signs to look for when there's like something going on. Another thing, like I definitely see you, because we need the church painted. Right, we gave the next week. The church went from white to black quick. You know, you were up at 6:00 that morning with a U-Haul getting.
Why are you trying to attack me?
Because I'm like, what is happening?
Y'all be moving slow. Stuff got to be done, and y'all be sitting around moving slow.
How we gonna move this stuff? He was like, "Oh, I went and got a U-Haul this morning." A U-Haul.
It was actually a van from Home Depot. You're nuts.
But you move the churches and everybody around Connected really moves with urgency when it comes to people giving, because you take that very seriously. When a person sows, when a person is generous, and we really do see the receipt of that. We actually talked about last Sunday, which I thought was funny during your sermon. It's like, people are giving to building funds, and there is no building.
No building. Absolutely. You never see a building. Given for 20 years. Thermometer on the wall never moves. Where is the money going? But the pastor get a Cadillac every 2 years. 13 buttons down a suit. Stop bringing these big chairs into the church.
So when you say stuff like this on Sunday, and then your church votes you the most humorous,
no, y'all voted me.
Why?
Y'all voted me class clown.
That's not what we voted. Your sermons are very rich, cutting, but it's humorous. Like that when you said that.
Y'all voted me laughing stock of Cultivate.
We never did.
And y'all disrespect me. Both of my churches disrespect me. My last the last launch team meeting we had, One of our pastors told me that I was big. One of our leaders told me I was big.
That's not what
was
she
like-
said. She said you have shaved down.
What? I hadn't seen you in a few years, Pastor. Prophet, you look good. You done shaved down. Wow. Disrespect everywhere I go. Ryan disrespects me. Cultivate DFW voted me laughing stock. Cultivate ATL says I'm shaving down.
They hadn't seen you in Atlanta. They said to 3 to 4 years. That is a long time.
Yeah, I hadn't been to Atlanta.
And it was a testimony that when you don't look the same as when you left.
Yeah. I had spread like high school rumors. The Lord brought me back.
And I gotta say this because this is something that you say that gets under Pastor Nini's skin. You say you eat like a bird. We're gonna get back to the podcast, but you said that you eat like a bird.
I do not eat a lot. Y'all, listen, let me tell you this. Now, what you're not finna do.
Y'all
I do not eat a lot. I eat like one meal a day.
Can y'all think about the stomach of a bird, though?
I don't
you relating your appetite to a stomach.
Pastor Nini and Pastor Alrecus will literally eat like 6 times a day. Nini has to have, but she's breastfeeding. So,
right.
She has to have 3 square meals and snacks because my daughter eats.
Mm-hmm.
But y'all suck food down like a Hoover vacuum cleaner. I can't eat like that. Food, snacks. Dethrone King stomach.
Oh, wow. So, trauma, abuse. Why do people stay silent for so long?
Ask me that one more time.
Spiritual trauma, abuse, church hurt. Why do people stay silent for so long?
People stay silent because they don't know their own strength. People stay silent because they just want to get out of the situation and not ever be a part of it again. People stay silent because they are not thinking about the fact that if they tell their story, there's somebody else out there with the same story, with the same experience that needs to hear what's going on. There are people inside of the church that needs to know what's happening so they can get out. Mm-hmm. If you are leaving a safe place, it is your responsibility to. Now, I'm not saying if you disgruntled and you just had a disagreement and you want to leave. No, if you have verifiable proof of abuse, you've got to blow the whistle. You got to blow the whistle.
And I love your response to people who have experienced this. It's very loving. One of the things or traits I did not know that I had when it comes to being a pastoral role is I can care and nurture people, and the same people that I care and nurture, I become like a Peter for. Mm-hmm. So they get hurt by something, I get very passionate and you've had to tell me like, Al, you can't be a Peter.
God, ready to fight and can't fight.
We were very passionate over here though, and we really take care of those who a lot of people that come here have experienced that, and we don't play about that. Like you're not gonna come here and it be the same thing that what you experience. But there is a line though, we don't. I can't call up them. We can't cater to,
but we can protect. Yeah.
But we can protect. So a person who have experienced that, where's the line between coming like a Peter, with going to cut somebody's head off with accusation and defaming a person's character or tearing down someone, versus I'm just telling my truth?
Yeah, there's a thin line, because sometimes people can be right. What I've experienced is most of the times hurt people. And if you can get over the hurt that people cause you, you can see the hurt that is in them. As a leader, it's important for me.
It again.
I don't know what I said. Let me say hurt people. And in order to help people, you've got to get over the hurt that people experience so that you can really or you got to get over the hurt that you experience from people to see the hurt that they're going through. And that's something that leaders have to walk a fine line with. Like, there's sometimes people have done stuff that is hurtful, but I see what's really going on, and I realize, it's not an excuse. I still process it, but there are times when you got to just like, they're just hurting, and then there are times where like, oh no, you got to grow up. You got to mature through this. That's difficult because it's an interesting balance.
This is different. We're going to take a turn, still on the same topic, but
we gotta wrap this up.
Okay, we're going to wrap it up. 5 more minutes, y'all. We don't see platforms where we speak to the abuser. We see platforms that help people who's been affected by it, but we don't see platforms where we speak to the one who is doing the cutting and bleeding on people. There's still redemption, salvation, and love for them as well. Can we speak to them as far as like, what if, one, I know this is I've hurt people, but it came based upon what I went through, or I didn't know that I experienced. This person came and said I hurt them, and I'm like, what did I do? Can you speak to them?
Yeah, I think it's important to become trauma informed as churches and leaders, so that you are sensitive. Like, when you're a builder, it's very easy to become hyper focused on what you're building, getting it done the right way, and forgetting about people, not intentionally, but just getting caught up in the busyness. Leading churches means that you're leading people. God cares about people. And so there's sometimes you got to apologize for stuff you didn't realize.
Wow.
Be open, be honest. There are times I've had to apologize to people. I didn't even feel like I hurt them, but they said that I hurt them. What's wrong with apologizing?
Wow.
Is it going to help them heal? Is it going to bring a different perspective to them about me? Let me apologize. Now, that's all I can do. I can apologize, and I can try my best not to repeat that offense. But as leaders, we have to be willing to be transparent and be willing to be wrong. I do not trust leaders who cannot ever be wrong. You're always right. You've never made a mistake. Those are people I don't trust, and they're also often dangerous in leadership.
Wow.
You need to find people who are willing to be wrong. If I ever hurt somebody, I apologize. I'm quick to apologize.
I received that.
I'm quick to apologize. I'm quick to make things right. I'm quick to listen. That's another thing. Leaders don't like to listen because they fear criticism.
Yeah.
So they keep stuff silent so nobody will be critical. Nobody will say nothing or bring anything up. But we have to be better. We have to be better about being vocal, apologizing, and making space. Another thing that leaders can do is make space for people to speak. Like, is there anybody here, any hurt, anything that anybody wants to say? Give them an avenue to say it privately. Give them a person, an elder. Give them avenues to express that, so that they know it's a safe place.
One of the things, if you don't mind me sharing, that you do is check-ins. We spend the first literally 30 minutes of business meetings. But you spend intentional time checking in on every last one of your leaders.
Yeah.
And you don't just settle for, I'm okay.
Yeah.
If they give you that, you're going to start a program asking another question.
What does that mean? Why? What is it?
Give language to that.
What is that? What you okay? What's going on? Because we just get used to. I don't want you to just be here working and building and busy helping us, and then you're never getting what you need. Like, those who pour should be poured into. The scripture says it this way: those who refresh others will themselves be refreshed. If you're working in here, you don't just need to be working and never being poured into. That's why I make sure to pray for my leaders. I lay hands on my leaders. I let cast the devil out of my leaders. I trained my leaders. I build my leaders up. I make sure I impart into my leaders, because I never want it to be where they're pouring out and never being poured into.
And let me also say, like, from a person who didn't experience that, I thought it was weird. It's honest. I was in meetings like, I'm not going to share what's going on with me in front of these people. But now because this was a real thing, and it was a real space, and it was a real atmosphere. And now we're comfortable enough to share. And now we share without you having to probe. So first couple of meetings, you're having to ask people, what do you mean you're okay?
Like
Give
pulling
language
teeth.
to that. But a little over a year old church, and now we tell you the good, the bad, the ugly.
We cry together.
We cry together, we laugh together, and we're okay about it.
Mm-hmm.
We're okay. I literally, this meeting, this person may be overwhelmed. The next meeting, I just got a promotion on my job I want to share with y'all.
Ooh. That's what it's about, you know, and that's the goal of Cultivate, and we'll wrap up right here.
Yeah.
That's the goal of Cultivate. Cultivate is designed not to be a large church, not to be a popular church, not to be a viral church.
Mm-hmm.
Cultivate is going to be ATL and DFW, a healthy church. If you're in the DFW area and you're looking for a church, come give Cultivate a try. If you're in the ATL area and you're looking for a church, text launch to 770-746-8147 so that you can be a part of what is happening in our ATL launch team. I'm going to put it on the screen for you. Text launch to 770-746-8147. Or if you just want to partner with us, you want to become a partner of our church, you can become. We have a global church. People are part of our church from all over the country. Kenya,
Bahamas,
Michigan, Bahamas. We have partners.
How are you able to get Cultivate in the Bahamas?
I love it. I love all of our partners from wherever they are, and you can be a part of what's happening. All you got to do is click the link, text partner to 770-746-8147 and be a part of this safe church family. If you have questions of anything, I want you to comment in the video below. We're believing God to do amazing things through Cultivate DFW, Cultivate ATL, and Cultivate Global, our e-church. We wanna see people's lives change forever because the church is still God's choice.
Yeah. And I think it's absolutely hilarious when I call new partners or you reach out to them and they're like, Prophet Torace, you reached out to me, or this is Pastor A from the church. Like, yes, we want to personally touch you.
Yeah, we want to be connected to the people who love this church.
Yeah.
This ain't my church, this is y'all church.
Yeah.
This is y'all's church, and I want y'all to feel safe and heard and seen. It's not about me. It's about Jesus touching the people that he loves.
And you can't hide here, so don't think that you would come here and hide.
No.
It's a place of equipping.
Because I'd be like, oh, I hadn't seen such and such in a while. Find out what's going on with them. Look for them, find them. That's what we're about. I want to tell you about one more thing, and then I'm going to let you go. Starting Monday, May 5th, we're hosting a free Deliverance Ministry Training Academy called DMA, Deliverance Ministers Academy. And we're going to be training people in deliverance. All you need to do to become a part of it is click the link in this description or text DMA to 770-746-8147 so that you can become a part of what's happening here. We believe in casting out demons, don't we, Pastor Alrecus?
Demons.
We got to cast them out.
We was in prayer last night. They start talking. I said, I thought we were done with this.
Oh, God.
But no, I'm ready to fight now. I feel I'm ready. I wish a demon would.
Well, all right. Well, that's all, folks, because he's talking about the side of his neck now.
This was so good. You know, it was such a serious topic, but there's so much liberty and freedom around it where you don't have to skip around it. No. You can confront and still have the joy of the Lord.
Absolutely. We need to have the joy of the Lord. The church is still God's choice.
Yes.
And we want people to know that there are still safe and functional churches out here.
Absolutely.
We love y'all. Can't wait to see what God does in your future.
Yeah.
See you next time. Comment below and tell us the next podcast you want to see.
Yes.
Give me topics. We want to meet with you. We want to talk with you.
No demons, please. Let's move on to something else.
Bye.